we might be the most professional unprofessionals you've ever met.
I always, sometimes I catch myself being professional. I just get really upset. Really upset.
Welcome to another Shallow Dive with Love. We're your, lovely co-hosts, Nathan and Jimmy, him and me. We sometimes talk to each other, and we sometimes get guests. We're supposed to have Ken Bozak on today, but apparently he had a bit of a mishap with his back, so we're not quite sure if he's going to jump in or not. But that's okay. We'll just pick it up where we left off last week, which neither one of us remember. So
he needs what they call a bacchiotomy. I think that's what they call it. So it's an operation to repair your back, but you knew that already. You're a doctor, Jimmy.
I don't know why. I don't know why when you said that, I just got this weird image of like Ken's face inside of a liquid-filled bubble on top of a robot.
I've seen that. we do that sometimes. We get a little weird on the weekend.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Fair enough. How have you been?
I've been good. Doing a lot of different stuff, probably working too much, but doing good. Figuring out that balance. So occasional emotional breakdowns mixed in with like moments of extreme success. And just this up and down that makes life worth it, Yeah,
I mean, I've never streamed before. This, little thing that we started streaming, Corey and I, and then branching into people like you and other people as well. But sometimes I get off the live stream and I feel like, I'm like, wow, that was like the crappiest show ever. But it pushes me to do something that other people might find interesting. So yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I think that I don't know if I have nervous breakdowns, but I definitely get like super depressed at times, and then like having to work through that. So the other day I realized that I'm actually starting to get fat. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna, as my missus opens like fattening food here.
I'm a very chunky boy, Jimmy. So, a lot of people know, like, don't put cake around me. Don't put sweet. I was just telling you before the show, I eat about 20 to 30 Smarties a day with little sugar biscuits. They're kind of sweet and sour sugar biscuits.
Nobody tell him that it won't actually make him smarter.
It doesn't. I've been trying for a long time. I figure if each one is one brain cell, I would be loaded right now.
Right.
But nothing's popping up. It's a very polysynaptic candy, though, because you use more than one. Anyway, I was trying to be smart.
No, I mean, I would love to see that on the next Smarties commercial. Smarties, the most polysynaptic smart candy out there. I'd say I can't even say it. That's how brilliant it was.
Yeah, I mean, I say some brilliant stuff, by the way. Honestly, I was doing a show the other day that was not live, and I think I broke my co-host's brain to the point where he's just ignoring me right now. Because I say some dumb stuff sometimes, but it's fun. Like I think that we're guilty. I mean, I know that you've done this before. I've seen it. We just start having too much fun, and we forget that nobody cares about us goofing around. They actually want to hear some substance. So I don't know,
or vice versa. I mean, sometimes there might just be too much substance in this world, and like
it's a good topic. Like, do you think we're too serious, or do we need to get our shit together?
Like, I mean, us in general, I think we're fine. But like people in general, I don't know. Like I've been thinking about the shows that I do, and the shows that I do are completely different from the articles that I write, right? Like I don't even try to be, humorous in the articles that I write, because there's just not.
It just happens.
I'm just not that good at it, right? So I'm like hardcore serious, and it's like, I don't know. I guess it's how I fit some craft to my, varied personalities, right? But like, I think coming online and just chilling, like I'm not knocking anyone who is, but I'm not the type of person who comes in with like a list of questions that I need to ask or I need to get through, right? I more come in with like, a question, and then like the goal to not cut someone off every 3.5 seconds when they say something and I have like, a brilliant or a dumb idea. That's
that's me. I mean, that's essentially my conversational skills in a nutshell. Is I try to not say anything too crazy or stupid, and then I try not to cut people off too much.
Yeah.
If we can walk that balance, we're generally okay. I mean, I don't know how it fares in public to just like do the podcast thing though, because I don't know, I don't relate as well like in person. I feel like with people.
No, I will actually, yeah. So I always think that you're a little bit, and don't take this as a negative. I think it's actually a bonus. But I always think that sometimes when you have guests on the show, I feel like you're being a little bit subdued, which is good because I don't listen, right? Like, one of the most brilliant people I know in my life in general is Corey, and like sometimes like I forget to let him talk. Right. And it's like, then he'll talk and I'm just like, oh, damn it, Jimmy, you got to let him talk more. Right. Part of it like boils down to like me being at night and, sleep deprived and him being in the morning and haven't had enough coffee. So but like, it's like, I think when I watch you, another Bitcoin podcast with you, you're quite subdued. And I think it's good because you actually come in very rational when you have guests. Right, like when it's just you and Ken clowning around, it's a little bit of a different story. But yeah, let's talk about that because you guys did a great podcast last week with Blue, who's a good friend of both of ours. Like that was super fun. Yeah, I mean, is that the first time that he's been on another Bitcoin podcast? I can't remember.
I think that it's he's been on a couple times, but it's the first time he's been on since I've been co-hosting, or at least since I was present. Sometimes our schedules don't line up, and maybe he was on one of those. But like, yeah, I thought that it went really good, and I try to be more subdued in general in those, just because. I mean, I want to show respect to it's Ken's show ultimately, so I want to show respect to that. I have a tendency to be a little crazy in terms of like the things I'll ask a guest something that really doesn't make any sense just for the sake of breaking up the monotony a little bit. And I've learned to just sort of stay in the pocket and relax and wait for the opportunity to just add something of substance to conversation and not just make it about me and being silly all the time.
Well, the only thing better than multiple personalities is multiple personalities that you can control.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's probably a couple of them in here. I mean, I don't know. I do a lot of different stuff. I forget, like sometimes I forget that I'm an artist. I mean, I don't know. Like when people ask, like, what do you do? Sometimes I don't say artist right away. So I don't know. Like, I'm definitely a little crazy. There's definitely like some competing personas within my hierarchical self, I would say.
I mean, I kind of understand that. Like, those people that watch the show know that I'm on here a lot, right? And I'm more of a numbers guy, like when I'm in a club, like I feel like this show is just about me asking like every single girl that wants to dance, and like eventually I get a hit. But it's weird because I'm almost on the dance floor the whole time. Different various times in various places. And I always want to expand more because I think that's really important with this global economy that we live in. And of course, like this show started a long time ago with this channel started a long time ago with Corey. But now like we got Jen who's doing like some West Coast stuff. We got a few other guest hosts and, Corey and my show, your show, we do some other shows. And I'd like to have those spaced out across all different time zones so that like we can touch base with different audiences live and in real time. Yeah. Although like, people like TC are here all the time. I'm pretty sure he's a robot. Right. No, but like I asked him on the stream, he's like 18 hours a day. Right. And I'm like, that's more than me. But like, wow. Sorry. So to go back to your point, right. When people ask me what I do, because I've been thinking about this, like, we're pondering like, picking up and moving somewhere else. And it's like, what am I going to say? Oh yeah. Like I work for a couple of different companies. One of them is a gaming company. One of them is a music company. And I'm like the co-host of about 10 different YouTube shows. Like all of these people who like have no idea that this part of my life exists. This is what I'm going to be telling them. And it's going to be crazy. Like family members, like old friends, like old classmates. Just like, what have you been doing? And it's, I do shows on YouTube. Like, it's just going to be a really weird conversation, right? And so I can imagine like what you're going through as well, right? Like you're out there, you're a public celebrity. People are like, oh yeah, Nathan, I've seen you with Ken Bozak. And you're like, what else you do? And you're like, I'm an artist. And they're like, you know, and I'm guilty of this. I was like, really? You're an artist? Okay, whatever. And then like you sent me the background that was this show, and I was like, holy shit, like he's actually an artist. Like he's actually good at this, right? Like, sorry, I didn't mean like in the past to like discount that, but a lot of people like they there's two types of people in this world. There's people who say they're an artist, which means that they're probably like an actual artist and probably a little bit hung up on it, which means like they're probably actually better than they think that they are. And they're kind of like fighting, oh, should I say I'm an artist or not? And then there's the people who say they're artists that have no chance of becoming an artist. I'm sorry, I don't want to crush anyone's dreams, but I have a story to tell you. This is kind of funny. For people who don't know, I live in Japan and I work at a university. And one time I asked my student, you know, what do you want to do when you're finished school? And he said, I want to be a Hanshin Tiger. And the Hanshin Tigers are like the equivalent of like the New York Yankees, right, in Japan. Japan's got a pretty serious, like, you know, professional baseball league. And I said, well, okay, that's cool. Like, have you been to the, you know, high school tournament that they put on at the Hanshin Tigers Stadium, the Koshin Stadium? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. Well, do you play baseball on the university club team? And he's like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, did you play baseball in high school? He's like, no. I'm like, so you're telling me that like you want to be a Hanshin Tiger? You're already 20 years old. You want to be a Hanshin Tiger, and you're not even playing baseball actively? He's like, well, I played when I was a kid. And I was just like, man, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I really need to crush this guy's reality. He has like no chance whatsoever at all. The funny thing about art is you could draw 3 stick people and probably sell it for $1 million at some point in time, right? Like, yeah, and it's so subjective, right? Like,
in some ways, I am that kid because I did art as a kid and teenager. I was in like all these programs, like creative, whatever, you know. And it just, the structure of it just killed me. It just bored me. And I quit like all this stuff. And, you know, at some point as a teenager, I got into my head that I probably, well, but not even a teenager, probably like 20 years old, got in my head like, oh, I wanted to be like a fighter instead of an artist, which is kind of weird. And I just like, I drifted away from that. But if you were to ask me like maybe what I thought I could be, ultimately, I was like, I think I could be like a world famous artist one day. And people would be like, why would you say that? It makes no sense. You're not pursuing that. You're not doing anything. But it is one of those things, I think, where if you do have some talent and you get an opportunity, you can definitely manifest success. But you have to have like a reasonable context for doing so. Sort of like how like Conor McGregor, maybe not the best example in terms of like role model at times, but like, here's a guy who probably would have been like a plumber his whole life, which is a very respectable trade, makes good money, but it's far from, you know, the $200 to $300 million earning, you know, prize fighter that he is today. And it was like a few decisions that set him on that path, really. But it was one of these things where you do something as a kid and then you stop and then you start again. You're like, I think I can do it. It's a combination of confidence and opportunity, I think. You're muted.
I think we live in the perfect kind of time for that in a way, right? Like we could potentially go full automation as a society. We probably won't because, you know, people like being forced to work for jobs that robots could do, it seems, which is crazy to me. And I'm totally making fun of people who are doing things that jobs that robots could do. And education systems like to showcase that math and sciences are, you know, way superior to the arts, which again is absolutely ridiculous because I mean, even in math and science need art, right? Like, I mean, who's going to pay attention to, like, I mean, how many times have you looked at a Pythagorean triangle and been like, oh, that's a really beautiful Pythagorean triangle? Or how many times have you like looked at a piece of art that incorporates the Pythagorean triangle and been like, wow, that's a beautiful, piece of artwork, right? And I think I'm kind of headed down a path of obscurity here.
I love the triangle. I like a good effect. How do you feel about an isosceles?
Ironically enough, I think I'm a lover of all triangles.
Okay. No, I mean, me too. I just, I don't think.
And if you're not, just go draw 3 triangles right now.
Yeah.
And try not to draw 3 different triangles, and then smile. It's like almost impossible.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel about like just parallelograms?
Yeah, but I'm not a fan of parallelograms.
Me either. They're very like pompous, I feel.
Well, they look nice. I mean, if I saw a parallelogram, like if a parallelogram showed up at my party, I wouldn't send him home.
Yeah.
Like, no, this party's only for circles and triangles. Go home, parallelogram. Go home.
That's tough. That is tough. How about you a square?
I think with a triangle, it's easy, right? Like you can mess up the first 2 lines as long as like they're not straight, and you still get a triangle.
Essentially, I mean,
right?
You get like 2 lines and like wavy thing, but it's kind of a triangle still. We should invent some shapes here on Shallow Dive. YoshiDrops.
The triangle with resonance, the 2 straight lines with the wavy line in the middle.
Yeah, I bet if we tried hard enough, we could create a new triangle.
I mean,
I don't think so.
Is anything really created and destroyed? Like, I don't think so. So this is an interesting topic as well. Like, if you think about inventions, right? What was the last thing that was ever invented? Like, I'm not sure, but honestly, like, I don't think it was that long ago. Like, we think about it, people are inventing stuff all the time, but they're not really inventions. They're just adaptions and making things better. Like, right? Like, so if somebody says, oh, the best invention of all time is a flat screen TV. Well, is a flat screen TV really an invention? It's just like taking a regular TV and optimizing it and making it better, right? Like, so I was thinking about this. What other than art and music, and even music to a certain extent now, a lot of music is just rehashing of old beats or old sounds, or like in clubs and things like that, right? And art as well, right? Like there's a lot of influences in art, but I would say like art and music in general are 2 of the things in the world today that we actually do still invent. I mean, most other things aren't actually invented. They're just remodels or restructurings of things that are already there. How about an equilateral triangle? So an equilateral triangle is cool, but it kind of annoys me, and I'll tell you why. It's kind of the same concept as the parallelogram. And if it's an equilateral triangle, I have to make sure those angles are the same. And I just kind of want to draw 2 lines and then fill it in and be happy with what the result was. That's really.
And also, I like triangles that kind of march to the beat of their own drum and aren't just riding off the coattails of some other type of triangle. I mean, it's just like,
yeah, an equilateral triangle is the equilateral triangle is the triangle that invited the parallelogram to the party. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's like.
Hey, you want to be uniform?
That's like this. I heard this old Jim Brewer joke. It was on something called like Pulp Comics or something. It was like a long time ago special. And he had this joke about how, if you're out drinking or whatever, each drink has its own personality, and it's like a party in your stomach. And there's certain ones that get in there and just cause trouble. So you don't want like Jägermeister in there, for instance, like because it'll just start messing stuff up. But I sort of know what you mean. How do you feel about octagon? That's like a bear. I'm gonna fight a bear in the octagon on October 7th. It'd be crazy if I had a date. I had a plan.
I would love to see like you go on a date and then like you go to the fight and then like the fight starts and the announcer comes out, and he's like, "Oh, and in the left corner we have Nathan Islop," and then you just get up and walk into the ring, and your date's like,
my shirt off.
"What's happening?"
Hi.
Hey, so win-win-win. Let's talk about art a little bit because I think this is fun.
Yeah.
Win-win-win was kind of your creation, right?
In some ways, yeah. I mean, so Lgnd and I produced the music. I rapped on it, and then a community member, and I think it was just the one, crafted some of the lyrics, and then Lgnd and I sort of like, you know, like made it fit and whatnot. And then as far as the artwork, it's based off of a drawing that I'd done actually. I can send you the original drawing, but the concept was just to have a heart that was also like a record player. And the original idea I wanted was to have vines come out as as it was playing, and the vines would grow and turn into like a vine man that was kind of dancing around and stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, speaking of shapes, because like this is pretty cool, right? Like, and so like you said, this was a piece that you designed. It reminds me of like those globes, you know, like a map that like you can cut apart and you can turn into a globe, right? And it all kind of all fits together. But this is really cool. Like, I mean, it's a heart, but obviously it's got different undertones. Like at times it looks like a gas mask. At other times it looks like somebody, you know, listening to headphones.
I just sent you the original artwork. So I sent you in Telegram the original image I created, and this is based off of. And then the animation team at YoshiDrops had to go at it and sort of turn it into that. And we kind of, you know, in some ways went back and forth, collaborated to get it just right.
Is that all they had?
Yeah.
This was it? This was the only thing that the team had in order to create that?
Yeah,
they create that 3D model.
They did that with this. I just gave them the one image. Yeah, because I had just come up with that image in my mind, and that's all I could do to kind of illustrate it to them. I kind of want to drop that original image to everybody. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up now, but for some reason my computer's not. But basically, yeah, it's just a 2D image of a one. I'll see if I can pull it up. But it's just
the idea where the vines are going to grow out of, I guess, the ventricles or whatever you want to call them, arteries of the heart. And as the music was going to play, it would pump that. But I think it's very difficult to do when it comes to like 3D modeling.
Yeah, it was really. Let's see.
Yeah, it's incredible. What they ended up doing with it, it's crazy. The 3D heart that they love that is wild. And
let's see if I can.
That's one of the more exciting ones for me because, I mean, it's not often that I get to work with a team like, you know, I was kind of new at the time, I guess, when I gave them that image. So it's not often I've gotten to work with like a world-class animation team to just sort of bring a vision to life. Pretty cool. I know a lot of artists do that kind of stuff. Like they have a team, they kind of say how they want it. But I've never done it before, so
there you go.
I love that part of the process, actually.
Yeah, so that was the original, I guess, and that's all they have. So they didn't have the backside. They kind of tailored it a little bit. There's a couple little differences there. It looks like one of them, like there's a plug there, and
yeah, that's what I had drawn originally, just to illustrate that we need like a record player with a speaker and wires, and you know. But I like this sketch too. Like I kind of want to give people, I sort of want to mint that and drop it to everybody who got the win-win-win. But we'll see what happens. That's just like kind of like what I would like to do. So, but I can look up template IDs and do that.
Hey man, you're a corporate man now. You don't get to do what you like to do anymore.
I know, it's annoying.
Actually, a lot of times though we do, which is kind of
no.
nice.
I mean, it's not that bad actually. This is the best corporate situation in terms of like if you're a creative, I think that you're gonna find.
I know the worst thing about my job personally is that like I don't get to complain about it. And like complaining about your job is kind of like, you know, a standard core of Western civilization at this point in time.
Rite of passage. If you haven't sat in the bar and complained about your job before.
Yeah.
I grew up in the Midwest, so there was a lot of people that just hated their jobs, go to the bar after work. I'm like, just like kind of grumble about it. And I mean, I guess in some ways, if you remove like the misery from it, because it's not cool to see that much, but it's funny to think about the fact that like, I mean, most people just don't want to do what they're doing all day, but we can just kind of sit around and we podcast, art. I take a lot of like phone call meetings. Like a lot of what I do is like talking with, you know, like getting people to understand blockchain and like why do they want to do stuff with NFTs. It's just kind of like I've become like the ultimate pitch man for Wax and blockchain and just, you know, uplift Lgnd YoshiDrops.
Which is funny because they're like you're the only waxer that like I know that's like, you know, not really a hardcore, you know, I'm only wax.
Yeah. I like it all. Like Solana, Cardano, Binance. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. I don't know, like it's
I know Corey plays around with Binance a lot, and I don't. I just sit on a little bit that I got back in the day. But like speaking of Solana, like have you ever played around with that? Because like I don't really know very many people that have. Like I know people who have invested in it, but like they've got them like some serious potential. Like I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, so I am an investor. That's one of mine that I really believed in for a while. And I've been pretty happy with it recently. I hope it keeps going. But I haven't personally engaged on the NFT side. However, I know a lot of people that when the Solana marketplace opened up, I think it's SolC, they immediately were on there and they were getting like the Soul Punks and all this stuff. So I know that it's already popular. I'm pretty sure the functionality is there and everything seems good. So I'm excited. I think that like if it's not video games, it'll be NFTs, but I think it'll be the combination that spreads mainstream adoption and interoperability. It'll be NFTs being used for video games, you know? So I think that's like, that's maybe the biggest challenge that we face, but also the easiest problem to solve. It's like, how do we get people to want to use blockchain? Like, just make it a game. Like literally, people want exclusive shit in the games anyway. Like game skins and Fortnite and these things are going to be all NFT and they're going to be billions of dollars eventually. LeBron James is going to own like, you know, the #1. It's going to be like weird. Like things are going to get interesting.
What are your like hypnotist skills like? Like we got to make our way over to that like weird zone that nobody knows about. Like everybody knows about but forgot about. You know, that weird street downtown where like, you know, Roger Rabbit and Pee Wee Herman are like hanging out across the street from Ronald McDonald, right? Yeah. Like Morton's got a good point. I mean, Walmart and the Litecoin announcement, but like just for reference here, remember like what a splash those like Happy Meals were? Like imagine if McDonald's, and I hate McDonald's by the way, but imagine if McDonald's, right, had like some kind of, get a free QR code digital toy with every Happy Meal.
They want to so bad because the overhead of carrying all those little plastic toys and shipping them all over the globe, like that's probably not easy to deal with. If they could just pop the QR code and then just program that, like very, very, very.
I mean, personally though, like over in YoshiDrops, we're planting trees and we're doing like good stuff for the environment. You know, I'm a permaculturalist, so I'd much rather see like a different corporation than McDonald's. So
and we get something we can't like really mention specifics of it, but there's something like really cool that we're trying to throw together. Speaking of the environment at YoshiDrops, a cool partnership that would add, you know, get some pretty big eyeballs on this project and just this ecosystem. So stay tuned. But yeah, like there's a lot of good environmental projects going on, and I think the fact that we can actually be on a blockchain that is legitimately energy efficient and not just kind of talk about it, like we're actually practicing what we preach. I love that. And it's not to say anything bad about the other chains, but like we're actually living by it here. It works very well. We use it every day, and it's great.
I love the fact that we're not telling people to recycle, and spinning this narrative that like makes people think that recycling will solve all of our problems, because it won't. I mean, like, okay, yeah, maybe if you started recycling like in the 17th century, that would have fixed the problems, you know, before the Industrial Revolution, before all this shit came to a head. But now you're just recycling so that you can feel good, right? Like, you're not getting up at early in the morning and watching the garbage man dump all of those tediously separated recycle bins into the exact same truck, into the exact same area, right? And so like what I like about YoshiDrops is that like we're doing something better. We're actually regenerating the planet, right? And this is where we need to be. And so yeah, I'm kind of excited about this new announcement as well. But
there's some big things. A lot of people, like, I think it's risky too. A lot of people don't want this to get bigger because they know that if it gets any bigger, there'll be more regulation. But, you know, we got to think big picture, and I guess, you know, we'll see what happens. But I'm excited too. There's a lot of cool environmental projects and just cool partners that we're looking at. So.
Yeah, I mean, Niche, thanks for calling me out on that. And I'm not knocking recycling. I think recycling, you should recycle. It is good, but what I'm saying is like it's not going to solve all our problems, right? We need to do more. We can't just keep cutting down trees and polluting with what things can't be recycled. And we need to be able to, like, I mean, half of the rainforests on the planet disappear. How many years? Like half of all rainforests on the planet disappear. Like how many years does it take? Right? Like a panther needs like 2,000 square miles, I think, just one, like to be able to survive, like in the middle of Central America and Brazil, and we're just going in and cutting down these rainforests, right? And so once that whole thing collapses, then we're screwed. And so what I'm saying is like, I'm not saying stop recycling, but what I'm saying is people need to realize, general people need to realize that recycling won't solve all our problems. What we need to do is we shout out to China, because China's done this in some of their barren lands. They've went in and they've like left things idle, and they've planted trees, and they've just like rejuvenated whole patches and areas of land. And it's just amazing how quickly these things come back. And so that's what I'm talking about. And that's why I'm such a big fan of, you know, what YoshiDrops is doing with the planting of the trees thing. And I might just go plant some more trees myself, because it's always fun falling through swamps of sphagnum with 20 pounds of trees on your back.
I'll go plant a tree with you, my friend. Let's plant some trees.
Yeah, let's plant some trees. That'd be cool.
Do they have a lot of different types of trees where you're at and over here?
I've never actually thought about that. Yeah, so yeah. We're totally talking about the same things, Niche. But yeah, I mean, yeah, they do. But it's you. I'm trying to stay happy, and then you get me on this rant. So
that's why I do like trees. Like, what are your tree breeds?
Yeah. So after the Second World War, I think it was.
You're trying to stay happy, and then you're bringing up World War II.
It could have been the second, but actually now that I think about it, I think it was the first. At that time, the Japanese government they were building. I think everyone was building wooden boats, right? So it was definitely the first. They were building wood boats, and they were on the Allied side of the First World War. And they were building boats. And so after the war, they just went through and they like took all of the clear-cut areas that they had, and they just planted these spruce, these Japanese sugi trees. And I guess the plan was like, to cut them down because they grow fast and straight, and make new boats out of them. But then like they started making their boats out of iron and metal and stuff like that. And these sugis, they just kind of sat there. And now what they think now is the problem is that like all of these sugis have put so much excess pollen in the air that the Japanese people in general have developed this like pollen allergy, right? Ooh. And I have a theory that the reason, like what they should be doing is they should be cutting all of these trees down. They should be using the wood, because a lot of the wood in Japan, it comes from like Indonesia, the Indonesian rainforest, right? Because like that's where wood is cheap and it's a business. And so like, but I have this theory that part of the reason that they won't cut these trees down and use them is because of the, what do you call it? Like the underground partnership that the if I'm not here next week, you guys know why. It's because the drug and pharmaceutical companies have got me. But one of the biggest businesses in Japan are these masks that people use now for Corona. The Japanese people have been using them for a really, really, really long time to fight pollen, right? Like they were originally pollen masks. So it was like, it's my kind of thought and feeling that part of the reason that a lot of these old trees, this monocultural like mountain landscape is allowed to like remain and exist is for the simple reason that like there's pressure on them not to cut it down because how many more masks can you sell when you have a whole population. And it's great to, convince a whole population for 2 or 3 months at a time that they can't go outside because the pollen's going to be a problem when we got to keep things closed down. We got to keep air conditioners on. This is like probably like 1% true. And I'm going like full rogue on my conspiracy theories here. But even if it's 50% true, it annoys me, right?
Yeah, it's still like, I mean, who doesn't love a good conspiracy theory either way?
Right. And I mean, when was the last time you heard a Japanese conspiracy theory? I mean,
I've never heard any. Do you have any more? Do you have any more Japanese conspiracy theories?
No, that's the only one I have.
What about like scary tales? Like, we have like our little like, all right, so Japanese have like the coolest horror movies, right?
I mean, that's debatable. I mean, they're all kind of censored in a way, right?
Yeah, but like the one where the kid's like or whatever. What is that one? The kid.
What are we talking about?
Horror movies.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about porn movies, and then you were like the one where the kid's like and that kind of really threw me off.
No, you crazy horror.
Sorry. Oh man. Yeah, definitely. So my friend is a big fan of Japanese horror. Sorry.
Oh my God.
I was like, if you want to talk about porn, we can talk about porn, but then you're starting to bring up children, and I'm like, this shit's getting weird, man.
No. Bad. So you're the worst of us all.
Yeah.
You're gonna get us in trouble.
Yeah. Channel gets canceled. The company goes downhill, all because Jimmy misheard something. Like horror movies in Japan are really, really, really kind of like world renowned. And my friend explained it to me this way. He said the thing with horror movies in Japan is like stuff just kind of happens, but you never see where it's coming from. Like eventually in a Western horror movie, like some monster jumps out from behind a bed and like eats you or kills you, or sorry, I had a really funny racial thing pop into my head. One of my favorite lines ever. I think was from Chris Rock, and he does this skit about like when in Western horror movies, how white people are so dumb because they're the ones that are like always running towards the screams to see what the monster is. He's like, you don't see black people doing that. Black people are running in the other fucking direction. It's a great little swap.
Well, I'm an investigator, so I want to see what the danger is and why we're running.
I would love to have you and Chris Rock on a stream to discuss this.
Wait, no. We need to check out the danger. We need to see what's so scary, because I have a theory that most times people. Yeah.
So my point is, in the West you would die. Like in the Western movies you would die because you'd be the one that would get killed. But in the Japanese movies you probably wouldn't die. You would probably like develop some weird, sub-skin disease that ate away at your mind, because you actually never see. I heard from my friend, and I haven't seen every Japanese horror movie, but you actually never see the entity that is horrorizing your life, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's like more about the mystery of it, but they also have that like creepy. There's like a haunted forest there. There's some haunted forests. So I mean, maybe it's real. Maybe this is real stuff.
I mean, so we can go in that route, and I think, I had a theory a long time ago that I thought maybe ghosts were just, thought maybe ghosts were just a different layer of reality that certain people could see, right? Like we often talk about like parallel worlds in science fiction. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scientist really, but if I were a god and I was going to create parallel worlds, I don't know if I would like link them with wormholes, because that takes up a lot of space. And I mean, even though you like know everything and you can see everything, you'd think that it would get confusing. So what I would do is I would stack parallel worlds on top of each other like other dimensions, right?
Filters.
And so like imagine if like a ghost, like you could see and you could kind of interact with, but like really there's no interaction. They're just in a fifth or a sixth or a seventh or an eighth or a ninth. We obviously not, but like a different dimension stacked upon our reality, right? Like maybe there's a dimension where Godzilla's running around or dinosaurs are running around, right? And the minute that we crack the code for like interdimensional travel, the world goes to shit, and Osaka and every other major city in the world like becomes like Jurassic Park that is being stomped and trunched by dinosaurs in another dimension that don't exist. And I mean, you can think I'm crazy, but that's kind of my thought. And so like I think going back to what you were saying, this is my problem, because like going back to what you were saying about the haunted forest, if you look at like mythologies in a lot of these old cultures, and how religion and mythology kind of play a role, because religion here is very different than it is, you know, in the Christianized or Muslim West or East. There's this sense of energies, right? And it's the same in a lot of like India and a lot about these other places. And so like maybe these spirits or these places have some sort of, you know, held connection with energies that exist. I mean, I don't know what people believe in, but there's this belief that there are certain points on the planet that are aligned somehow with like the magnetic poles and various energy fields that you know, seem to be kind of the strongholds of ancient civilizations, like Anchor or the Peruvian Inca settlement up in Machu Picchu. Like there seems to be all of these kind of centers around the world, Egypt, you know, the Tigris and Euphrates. And so like, I'm kind of personally a believer in, I think you're right. I think they are called chakras, Morton. And so I'm kind of a personal believer in these kind of like energy fields. And I'm a believer in being able to tap into these, not necessarily like, oh, I can tell you your future type of thing, but like, if you listen to your environment and what's out there, and you listen to like those things that that later happen to be coincidences that like derailed you from your course, and realize that you could have been dead in an ambulance because of that major pileup, if you hadn't have, you know, taken so long to decide whether you wanted to eat an apple or an orange that morning. And I think you're probably the same way, if I'm honest. I think.
No, I mean, I'm very much that way. I have like several like crystals like right here in front of me and shit. I have like all kind of like weird things. I believe in energy for sure. I believe in that more than I believe in like the concept of like certain religious principles or any dogma. I think that there's more to a lot of this stuff than meets the eye, and I don't know that I would trust anybody that says that they've figured it out. By the way, you earlier you claimed to improve upon God's design of reality. I like how you just got rid of wormholes. You're just like, you know, these wormholes are taking up too much space. Just get rid of those. And it's just like, let's just layer everything just right on top of each other. But there could be something to that, like, you know, like what is a thought before it arrives in the brain? Like, what is a feeling? What are these things that, as I was talking to a friend today, like what are these things that he was mentioning how a lot of these things you feel them, but they don't have like a weight or gravity to them, but they're clearly here or a part of you at least. But everybody has them for different time or different reasons at different times, sometimes for no reason, all the time. So like, what is that? I think a lot of what we consider to be energy, I mean, maybe it's just something we can't really perceive. I always compare it to like Wi-Fi or something. Like, you know, like we can tell if the signal's there, but it doesn't mean that we're gonna be able to see the little signal, like whatever it is. You know, I mean, there's a lot.
And I think most people in life they don't get the signal because their minds are so busy with like, you know, showing off what they ate for breakfast in the morning, or not getting their due, or like concerned about what other people are doing, so they're not tapped into these energies. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but
it's like if you got a new phone and you didn't know that you had to go into your settings and go to like, you know, like go link up your Wi-Fi and just like find the shit, the password and all that. Like, there's ways to link yourself up to that energy, like meditation, like anything that could clear your head, like different, I guess, types of yoga. And for me, like, it's just like running for long periods of time will kind of give me that clarity. Fasting. There's a lot of things that I think can connect people, but I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure if some people don't have the ability, or they're just not in the place mentally to access it or pursue it. And then you also have to be interested in the first place, I guess. Focus on that part. So.
Well, I mean, back to education though, because like we suck a lot of this, you know, creativity out of people in the institutional educational system that we've put in place in many countries, right? And so, like a little bit of I'm going to go on a little bit of a side here, but I wanted to ask you, like, so your creative art process, right? Like, I'm sure, like sometimes with the background here, like I told you, you know, that we wanted to have a background, and we had the show name, and so you had that, obviously you knew the show name, but like, you know, some of the other art that you've created, like the heart that we looked at earlier, is your creative process like, you're like, you see it in the finished form and then you layer down, or you just put something on the paper and you layer up, and whatever comes out after that layering up, like at the point where you're like, oh yeah, okay, I'm happy with this and it's finished. Like how much like forethought do you generally put into these things? Because I think that in itself is a meditative process rather than just like hammering away filters on a factory line, right?
Right. So there's two ways. In some ways you can embrace the randomness of the situation. So you can create an environment around you, maybe like light some incense, put on some music, and just start working on something and just kind of see what happens. Use your energy to kind of like let your body express that energy, essentially. Like, just be a conduit for that force, basically. And then there's the other way, where it's like sort of the reverse of that, where it's like you connect with that force first, and then you get the image in your mind, like a flash, sort of. And then you pursue that image. So like, there's, I guess like that's one thing about like a long run. I'll kind of like close my eyes as I'm running, and sometimes I can like see like the picture. Like, there's a few of the ones I've sent you where like I saw those in my head like well before they were done. Or there's ones that I saw. There was one I had a dream of myself in a museum, and there's like an art exhibit, and there was like my most famous painting. Like, people were saying like, oh, that's the one that, you know, you did and whatever. I was like, okay. And I looked closer, and it was something, you know, that eventually ended up being something I created. Like, it inspired something I created. So like anything that, you know, I guess even unconsciously can inspire that state or that connection to that unseen force. Like, that's where you get that from. But for me, it's just like one of the two. It's either randomness or like find a way to sort of create that spark that's going to give you the image.
Disclaimer to all those at home, probably running with your eyes closed isn't always the best idea.
Just for a second. You know you're on a path, or just like, you know that feeling, you like feel the wind in your hair, and you're just like, and yeah, it's probably not a great idea.
we've got really like we've got really limited what do you call it, attention spans these days. So I could totally like see somebody coming on next week and being like, yeah, I was in the hospital for a week because like I was listening to like Shallow Dive with Love, and they were talking about like running with your eyes closed through a forest. And, like,
yeah, I mean that's the way of the owl. You know? It's we're owl tribesmen.
Oh, dude, I so want you to do a Way of the Owl piece of artwork. That would be awesome.
Way of the owl. Yeah,
and I think like yeah, I guess I where I was going with that question was it I forget, like some famous like philosopher artist, you know, back in the day believed that Morton will get me here because apparently Morton's a genius. I didn't know Morton knows these things. But there was it Michelangelo that said like the you know, the image, the sculpture itself is like inside the marble and you just had to uncover it. And I always wonder like about art and music if this is like, I'm sure there are people that like plan something as well, but like how much of art and music could potentially be a driving force to people connecting with these other energies? Because I think it's a lot. And I think like pulling that out of the educational system where we can interact and use it every day is a real big disservice to like everything about our society that could potentially be creative, not just in terms of art, but like think about like use cases of everyday things that we use. That's a creativity on a whole nother level. I mean, like a toaster is great, but like a toaster oven, like an artist thought of a toaster oven. I'm just going to say it, right? Like, it's like,
but what's interesting, the irony is that people prefer the toaster still because it's so simple. And you see far more, at least in the States, far more just toasters than toaster ovens.
See, I'm the opposite. I despise a toaster. It takes up counter space. Sometimes I look at a toaster and I'm like, yeah, that could get me perfect toast. But can it spawn the creativity that is my genius chef in the kitchen in the same way as a toaster oven, right?
Good point.
Even though I only really use my toaster oven for cooking toast, to be honest.
I'll use mine for all kind of stuff, by the way. You ever put an apple in there? Don't do it. It's not a good idea. But
really, like that sounds like a really good idea, though.
I mean, it kind of ends up sort of nice.
I mean, like you're saying it's not a good idea. I kind of want to go do it right now. Like that sounds like a really good idea. I've never thought about that. And why stop with apples? Have you ever put a pineapple in there? Because I'd like to do that.
No.
I mean, we put pineapple on pizza and it's good warm. So why not just putting a slice of pineapple in?
I had pizza tonight. I had pepperoni and black olive pizza. To those who think, no, it's good. I promise you.
There were supposed to be sardines on it, but he forgot them in his car.
I forgot the sardines. You mentioned something though, like about how the thing is already there and you're just kind of like exposing it. I heard somebody say that great sculptures, you know, they're not made by adding material. It's all about removing material. It's all about uncovering. And it's like the self, you know, like if you want to really be a beautiful person and want to kind of like really shine through, you probably are going to have to do a lot of work, not adding things to who you are, but taking them away and just trying to get very simple and just very baseline, very chill, very zen.
On the first point, I might disagree because some of the best art that I've seen ever is like, you know, people that are like pulling things out of garbage dumps and stuff like that and like putting them together, right? But on the second point, I think you're 100% right. Like what is people as individuals in the modern society, a lot of them become like adding things, right? Like adding things in order to please other people. And like
you have all the weight of the world on your shoulders. No, you're just piling things on your shoulders and wondering why your back hurts. You know, like, oh, it's killing me. Just drop that shit. Just be free. That's how we need to live, Jimmy.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, yeah. Hey, speaking of adding, do you know what just transpired yesterday?
Oh, you exposed on the internet that I cannot add or subtract? I really appreciate that, bud. Thank you. Wow. Not cool, man. Not cool.
There's a really good pun there about Ken not showing up and adding and subtracting. I cannot add or subtract. I just can't quite figure it out here. We did this. This is really fun. There we go. Enter theupliftworld.com. And before, we didn't have that ability, but now, if I click this like little crystallize button, I can like mint crystallized uplift NFTs.
It's crazy.
And it might take a little bit to do that, but you can see my balance went down by 1 million uplifting.
You're loaded.
I can also like melt them, which is pretty cool. So like if you're a fan over there in the uplift world, I gotta get a new computer. I'm working on that because you and I talked about putting like, you know, some Shallow Dive with Love showcase together over there somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm gonna build a plot for myself. Well, I've got a plot. I'm gonna build some giant thing on the plot for Bang Out and myself for music. We've got a lot of crazy stuff coming out. We're working on like all kind of music. We've even got something with like one of the most, I guess, probably one of the greatest rappers of all time, like probably top 10, as a feature on one of my songs. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm excited, and we're gonna put some of it in there. So we're gonna distribute this to like the larger world, like it's gonna be on iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. But it's also gonna be like in Uplift. Like we want it to be like one of the first musical acts to come out of the metaverse, as opposed to like people from the music world discovering our world. Like we want to be able to say like, no, we're from blockchain, we're from, you know, the metaverse stuff. I don't know.
This is totally FOMO. Well, I mean, not FOMO. I mean, if you've been paying attention to this channel and YoshiDrops, I mean, you probably
there's not FOMO. I'm friends with like, a lot of those. Like I don't know. I'm friends with like a lot of people in the industry and stuff. It's very easy. I just be like, hey, do you want to do a song together? So like, yeah, it's very simple. And it would be FOMO if I was like promoting a project. I'm not. I'm just saying like, hey, when we do release this, it'll probably be an uplift.
I mean, I have no idea what project you could possibly be promoting. I mean, I'm just. In other news, would you care to check out this? Because this is really cool. If you haven't seen it yet, and I don't even really know where it came from, these, my friends, are absolutely amazing. And this is like totally not connected to anything that you're talking about. By the way, let me do this, and we'll do it this way. This is pretty epic. I'm not going to listen to the whole thing, but we will put a bit of that out there. There's 2 of them out there now. Oops. Have you seen these yet?
I can't see the screen on my end.
Oh.
Something's happened. We're having a technical difficulty. It's just flashing. No.
Oh, I see. Whoa. Okay. Anyway, definitely check these out. These are Yoshi Fly and Yoshi Red from the YoshiDrops thing, and you can go over and find them on the digital vinyl kind of thing, and they're pretty cool. The background kind of pulses and moves. It's dare I say mute music in a sense. Something that I've been thinking about for a long time, which I actually had no part in this, but I'd like to hope that there was some consideration into that, because I always thought this idea of mood music would be really good. I don't know why it's not playing. That seems really weird to me.
I can figure it out. I have a way to make it happen.
How are you with rain?
With rain, I'll stand in the rain from time to time. Sometimes I will dance in the rain. Like Ricky Martin had that song where he's like, dancing in the rain.
Do you ever get rained on?
I mean, are you talking like with dollar bills? Because sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I'll be walking down the sidewalk and people are just like, hey, look at that kid. And they just start like throwing money at me. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you giving me dollars?
I think they're trying to tell you that you should probably change course and walk towards a laundromat.
Oh no! You need to clean that shirt, bro.
Yeah, Dab Loco's great. If you don't know Dab Loco, he's a Spanish rapper. We had him on the channel once before with the nasty hooks. No, the reason I asked about if you ever got rained on is because I rarely get rained on, and I used to have this theory that like somehow my like undiscovered superpower is that like whenever I don't have an umbrella, which is always because I never get rained on, the minute I get off of the train or out of the car, I mean, of course, like if it's pouring and I have to like, I'm like, oh man, it's pouring and I have to run from the car to the house, it's going to rain. But like whenever it can be pouring all day for like 24 hours. The minute I get out of the car to walk to the supermarket from the back of the parking lot or like have to walk from the train to the university, it will miraculously stop for like 5 minutes.
Ooh.
Unless I'm annoyed that it's raining. And when I'm annoyed that it's raining, then it just pours harder. But if it's just like, oh, it's raining, and somebody's like, oh, you don't have an umbrella, I'm like, it's totally cool. It's not going to be raining for very long. I shit you not, every single time I walk out, it stops raining. I get to where I need to go. I look outside, and it's pouring again. It's crazy.
I know what that is. You're the golden child.
I'm the golden child.
The golden child. No, but
it's really
seriously, that happens to me at traffic lights. Like if I'm just like, it won't turn green, and if I don't care, it's just a breeze.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like sometimes I wonder if we're actually living in the Truman Show, right?
We are. That's why I'm slowly going insane. And no, I'm just kidding. That sounded bad for a second. Is it possible to slip into senility at this young of an age? I don't know, but we'll find out. I think I do get paranoid about that kind of stuff, to be honest with you, about things like the Truman Show. Would it make sense for this to all be sort of a simulation? Yes. Would it make sense for it not to be? Yes. Like, it's always both. You gotta say no, it seems.
I mean, if you were living in the Matrix. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
She's trying on hats. I mean, and they're really cute. I mean, maybe I should try this hat on. Like, I mean, it's a good look for me.
I like that hat. I meant to ask you earlier. You were saying how you like to go run from the cab or the train sometimes. Like, what's your running style? I see
So I hate running. I'll put that out there. So I used to be, and I used to be a really active person, but I hate running for the point of running. I hate biking for the point of biking, right? Like I was talking to my friend, he's a biker. He's like, I biked like 75K the other day, and I'm like, where did you leave from? He's like, my house. I'm like, where did you end up from? He's like, my house. And I'm like, well, so I'm never going to do that. Like, if I'm going to bike 75K, I'm going to spend the night and then bike back in the morning. Like, I'm the type of person that, like, if I'm going to run, I'm going to. But the other night, for the first time, I decided to take a run. I was outside. I walked outside. I was walking down by the river, and I thought, okay, I'm going to sit here by the river and watch this like little cascade of water go over, because it kind of had this cool optical illusion, like with the lights playing off of it. It kind of looked like the water was actually like a hill, and what was behind it was deeper than what was like the same depth as what was in front of it. It was pretty cool. I tried to take a photo, but it was a little bit too dark. It didn't work. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go down these steps, and I turned to go down these steps, and whoa, wouldn't you know it? There's a couple high school kids making out. So I guess I watched them for a little bit, but then it kind of got awkward, so I had to. Totally didn't. So then I'm like, so then I'm like, okay, I gotta walk a little bit. Sorry. So then I'm like, I gotta walk, right? So then if they want privacy, they should be in a van down by the river. Totally. Just don't be out there in the open.
Yeah.
So I started to walk for a little bit, and I saw this like old dude. And he was running, and then I saw this other old dude, and he was running, and then I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna go up onto the bridge that crosses the river and look at the city lights, because that'd be fun. So I got up on the bridge that crossed the river to look at the city lights, but you can't see the city lights because there's a massive fast train track that's in the way. So I thought, okay, well, I could go back, or I could go like the other side. I'm gonna go the other side of the river. So I walked down, and I was kind of hot, and for whatever reason, I took my shirt off, and then I just started to run down the river at like 11 o'clock at night. And I was running down the river because I've got a couple little things that I'm worried about with my health. And so I was running down the river, You know, and I was at my in-laws' place, and I walked into the house, and they all just burst out laughing because like it's 11 o'clock at night. I've got no shirt on, like I'm sweaty, you know, I had a little bit of a belly, and it's funny because like they were actually talking about booking a health check for me, like, and the thing that they happened to be talking, wow, that's cute. And the thing that they happened to be talking about at the time when I walked in was my father-in-law said, no, it's probably okay. Like he probably doesn't need a CT scan. Like his problem seems to be in his chest. So I walk in like, you know, all panting and like sweaty with no shirt on. And my father-in-law looks at my wife and says, yeah, I think maybe he does need a CT scan. Like he might be crazy.
you might be though. That's the thing.
So let me just finish this up, right? So then the next day I was like, I'm going to go for a run again because that was really cool. So I went for a run by my river, and I came home, and my missus is just like, what are you running in? Like I thought your shoes were too tight. And I'm like, yeah, I'm running in my Birkenstock sandals. She's like, you need shoes. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm going to be a Birkenstock sandal runner. That's going to be my thing. So,
yeah, you're a sandal runner. That's not even a thing. You just admitted it.
Yeah.
So I was worried that this is what was going to happen. When you said I saw the one guy and he was running, I saw the other guy and he was running, I had this image of you kind of feeling empowered for a second.
I totally was empowered. Yeah.
I'd be like, you know what? I think I'm going to go for a run too. But you did, and that's why I salute you. You actually did that.
Yeah. Well, yesterday I needed a break, so I went for a bike ride by the river. So I've actually embraced this thing of doing something just for doing it, which is crazy. Like I don't run unless I'm playing soccer, right? Like I don't bike unless I'm going somewhere.
You've become the neighbor that you didn't like at first, where you're like, why would you go around even though conversationally we will go around the block to go next door, we won't do that on a bike, essentially.
Yeah. Well, and like I think you brought up a good point too. Like I didn't realize that you actually ran as well, but you said earlier, like sometimes you just like to run and close your eyes. And I think
it feels good.
I never noticed it before, but now that we live primarily online, and we do like streams and write articles and, you know, create things and interact with community, our real time is kind of interactions with people is kind of lower, but we can kind of supplement those real-time interactions with people like in the flash with like, you know, shows like this or talking to people like this or interacting with people online, but not necessarily the physical side of it. And so like sometimes just getting out and like unplugging from all the stuff that we do is a way to like get back. Very hypersensitive microphones. That guy should be running, not driving his motorcycle. Anyway, like, yeah. And you know what I mean, right? Like, so I think it's really important to do that. And I think that might be part of the impetus in why my mind is shifting. It's like, I actually probably need to unplug and be one with myself at times, right?
We need to actually not just put the phone away, but like turn the damn thing off sometimes. Like, don't even have it in the room with you at night. Like, there's some things where I don't know. Like, I think a lot of this affects us in ways that we don't realize, and we'll figure out in like 10, 20 years. And we'll probably like look back. The next generation will probably think we're completely stupid. Like, you guys held that thing next to your face and got like radiation. I don't know. Like, who knows? They'll probably have some like later iteration of things that make everything we do look stupid.
Right.
So,
I can't remember who it is, but one of my favorite series of art is actually using the cell phone. Is actually using the cell phone to showcase like a mirror image of how dark that whole thing can be, right?
It is dark. Like I was in the woods today, and I've shown you my forest. I go out there a lot. I'm like always just hanging out in the woods, kind of like meditating and trying to like just connect with myself, because that's where a lot of my best work comes from, is when I'm able to clear my mind long enough for something to produce itself in my head, and then I can take that somewhere. But like, it doesn't just come from nowhere. So you got to have like all these times where you're doing nothing. And I think we used to have a lot of that. We don't realize how much time we actually spend just like staring at our phone. I catch myself doing it. It's insane. We need to connect and make that time sacred again, where it's just us and nature, or us and people that we love, or just like walking down the street in the city and paying attention to what's going on around you instead of like what's going on in your phone. there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. There's a lot of shit happening.
Well, and that's precisely why, like, we don't do like any kind of flashy things on this channel with these shows. Like, occasionally we'll showcase stuff off, but like for the most part, there's two people talking. And the cool thing about two people talking, or three people talking, or four people talking, is you don't actually have to watch it. So you can just like be awesome, put it on in the background as you're driving to work, right? Get all the information that you need, you know. And that's I like that, right? Like, and I'm not putting down people that like do the flashy thing, but like if you're gonna listen to this network as much as you know we want you to, there's no possible way that you should be staring at your phone that long, right? Like if you look at someone like Ken, like if you look at someone like Ken with, you know, his show, he does 1 hour every day. Like, I mean, that's doable. It's like normal television.
Even Sunday, we do Sundays a lot.
I think we've been. Oh yeah, we both froze there. That was kind of weird.
It's okay. I'll freeze.
Our freeze is sunk up. How do you feel about that?
Ooh, we've been around each other a while now. I think I think yeah, you got it. It's really crazy. That's quick. Whatever it's called. Yeah, I think that I mean I'm willing to freeze with you, bro. I'll freeze with you.
Totally.
Let's get some cold water together sometime. That's a sign.
I guess. Yeah. That's like. Yeah. That whenever you and I are in a motorboat together, we will definitely. So yeah. I mean, again, thanks for everyone who tuned in. Probably we should wrap this up a little bit, but yeah, we do apologize for Ken not being here, but it was nice to sit and chat about, you know, all the crazy things that we did, and I'm sure we'll have Ken back because we do want to talk about like Ken Coin. So I'll wish him well, but
we'll just rebook him. We've got his link, and a lot of people don't know. You know, you can just book him, but might not show up.
Yeah. It's all right.
I'm just kidding. I love you.
Well, no, I think
I gotta give him sort of a hard time for not showing up, but
valid excuse if he's in pain, right?
Back injuries are not for the faint of heart. I've known many a great human be taken down by back injury, and it's insane all the ways it can affect your life. So rest up. We're praying for you. We love you, Ken. Feel better, dude. Hopefully see you tomorrow. Yeah,
and we've got some cool guests that we're trying to book, or we probably will book eventually, depending upon. I think we're going to try to get Bang Out on here. I'd like to get Ollie back. Like, she's always fun. I would love to bring a couple other people on as well. Like maybe get Mello back again because we had fun with Mello. Yeah. I know those guys are up in their game in the uplift as well. Mello, TC, Yagi. Like Yagi has been making like videos for just about every single project in uplift recently. So
he's a
well-known videographer. Yeah. And the best part about doing.
Have you heard Yagi sing?
On his what is it? Is it Spotify?
I think he's got like something. If you want to just go to @Yagi, everybody out there on Twitter at least. I know he's got something up there. But he's the voice of an angel.
Yeah, and you can definitely check out all of the things that he's doing on our Uplift World blog. There's a special there about Yagi, which has links to all of his Beyond Uplift World stuff as well. Although it's like really outdated in terms of the video stuff because there's only like 2 videos there, and I know he's done a ton since then. So definitely, if you want videos made about your stuff in the Uplift World, hit him up. If you have events that are going on in the Uplift World, I am another great patron of this channel, and awesome dude has put together with his mate a calendar of uplift events. YoshiDrops, some cool updates coming there. I believe that on the 21st, you will be able to exchange some coins for some Yoshi bucks, and the Yoshi bucks will probably have value. Don't quote me on that. Go over to nblue and the YoshiDrops Twitter, because I just read that this morning when I woke up. And
there was an announcement on nblue's Twitter and the YoshiDrops page if people want to, you know, ride on over there and check that out. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Go to romp on over and cavort with that information.
Legend, on the Legend side, there's a two-time Emmy winning artist coming up with a drop this week. So definitely check that out.
It's coming up soon. We're shuffling a lot of stuff around. I know that this week is going to be Taylor Alexander. It's looking like. And then we're pushing a few things around, and we'll have some bigger announcements later because.
Okay. So Robert Valley will be maybe next week then.
There's a lot of stuff going on with one thing. It's very, very big. So we want it to be executed just right.
Yeah, and definitely, if you don't know who Taylor Alexander is, he's awesome. Check out on this channel as well. We did a live before the drop last week. Just me and Taylor did an exclusive, which was pretty fun. Introduced you to some of his art, some of his music, basically his backstory. And not only is he amazing at the things that he's doing, but he's actually trying to put together something for community musicians. So that something like COVID won't derail people again, and like, you know, he's kind of networking with a lot of different bars and stages in restaurants and musicians to try to put together this really cool program that's going to aid all of these people. So definitely.
Yeah, a lot of those performers make a good amount of their living just doing like live gigs during the week and just like, you know, small rooms, bars, even coffee shops. So it's like, that stuff adds up. A lot of these guys make like a lot of money throughout the course of the year doing those, plus like really big things like concert stops or whatever, like any kind of show they can book. So a lot of people are worried that could happen again. And I think that we've got some cool people in the space like Taylor trying to make sure the groundwork is laid ahead of time just in case. So.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, thanks for everyone for joining us, and we'll catch you guys back, I guess, next week, and
we'll see you soon. We love you. Go to you know, @loveisnathan on Twitter, Instagram, and loveisnathan.com if you feel like it.
I mean, support.
That wasn't that compelling. I hate promoting myself, but I have to, or else the people that advise me on business things get very upset with me because I don't do what they tell me to do stuff, and I just don't do it. I've got like a lot of platforms, and I need to get better about it. So,
no, fair enough. I'm horrible at self promotion, so that's a good job. You know. I have people like you that like can force me to throw those shameless things into the wind.
Yes, be shameless, Jimmy.
All right, let's check all of you next week. I'm also horrible at goodbyes, so goodbye.
Me too.
And see you guys next time.